Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so the first item, we're going to be going through a series of interview questions for our commission candidates. We have 4 candidates, and then we'll transition to our normal agenda. Brian, welcome. Good to see you. Come on in. Sorry for the weird format, but that's what happens when you got to pick a different time.
Yeah. Let's make it easy for
Yeah,
Angie.
maybe it's sorry the setup is so awkward. Do you want to maybe just sit next to Taylor or somewhere on that side of the works?
Yeah, heck yeah. Come on. Maybe just sit next.
Are you performing for us tonight?
Yeah. I think it's mine.
Yeah. Thanks for your willingness to think about serving again. Tell me a little bit about how the last year went. I mean, I think one of the conversation things that we had talked about last year was it was great to have somebody who's involved in the community band. So how did that interplay? And just give me thoughts about how it went.
Yeah, I think, so it was good to be involved both, in the band and on the board. I think we kind of had that good connection between the other band members and the board. And, I think there was a lot of good things that came about this year, especially at the Christmas concert, for the band, working with the Friends of the Arts Center. They had some poinsettias for the band, which was great. And then, the Arts Center also helped a lot with the marketing and stuff of the concert, which helped a lot, I think, for attendance. They're working on getting, higher attendance for the concert, but yeah, so I think it worked out pretty well.
Good. Dan, I'm going to start with you and then we'll just kind of go down.
Yeah. Talk to us about working in a team. How do you, first off, since you've been on the board, how is the team atmosphere on that board and how do you describe your skills as part of the team?
Yeah, as part of the team atmosphere, I mean, they're all pretty, willing to listen to new ideas and different, coming from different places. I think when I came in and did the interview for the board last time, I mentioned it would be great to do some kind of things like date nights and stuff for painting. And I'm not saying that whatever I said influenced that at all, but I see, as part of their curriculum now in the thing, they have some date things that they did for Valentine's Day.
So, what do you see like maybe in the next year coming up, 1 or 2 years? What are some of the bigger issues you think the board is gonna be dealing with?
So, really utilizing the space that they have.
Okay.
Getting more classes and more people to come to those classes. I know they have had a big wait list before, and now they're able to provide a lot more classes, which is great for them. They are looking at new furnace for their ceramics. Yeah, the kiln. And so that'll be really nice, the gas kiln that's coming in.
Yeah.
That comes in and they can do some more classes and other activities around that. So.
Yes.
And so I thought it was fitting that the gas company helps sponsor the
Yeah.
Kill.
Well, they want more gas use, so.
Yeah, right. Yeah, in their best interest, so they'll make that back.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your perspective is on the relationship between the board and the Friends of the Arts Center. Have you noticed that? Is that going well? Do you see any efficiencies there?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be going well. I works with my wife a lot, and I can't even remember his name right now.
Others.
Yes, others. He comes in and is working with the Friends of the Arts Center, and it seems like it's going well. I haven't seen any problems or any kind of areas that need improvement, I guess, but yeah. So
3 qualities that you think that a member should have to fill on this board?
For the Art Center part? I would say kind of like an adventuresome, a new kind of spirit of like, looking at something with kind of fresh eyes, I think, and maybe different eyes. And I think a lot of the people on the Art Center are bored. They do that. Maybe they can kind of see, like when they're selecting the art to put in the like at Amherst Park, right? Like finding the different artists and stuff and finding any, working with them on what art to include and stuff. Like, I think, I think, there's a lot of stuff about like looking at the different, types of people and types of artists to help with that. I think that's good. Let's see. That's one of them. So someone who's willing to throw out new ideas, and so there's accepting new ideas, but coming up with new ideas and sharing them with the team. It's important, and then listening, I'd say, to the other people on the Art Center. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us about experiences or things that you're kind of looking forward to from, last year, if you were to stay with it?
No, I mean, I really enjoyed my time. I enjoyed meeting everybody. It was great to just be more active and understanding of the types of activities that are going on, what the Art Center can provide to the community. And then, being involved with the art that goes into some of the other parts of the community. I think that was really rewarding to me, kind of being a part of that and seeing what's going on there. So.
I don't know if Justin said, we've got a whole bunch of interviews, not tonight. They're all on thing on that Saturday that you weren't able to make it. So we have a couple of interviews tonight, and then we'll have a full day. I think it's March 8th. And then we'll get back to everybody after that. So
Sure.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, say hi to your family.
Yeah. Meeting.
Thank you.
Is there attendance?
Yes, so on
Is
the,
that in Dropbox too?
should be, that we completed it today, let me,
Oh,
Also, just so you guys know, I have a 10:15 flight tonight. So
so what?
it will be in
It's
there,
going into
let's
the
be very efficient on
the meeting.
community engagement.
It's gonna be in there probably tomorrow.
Now you're
Just revising
Oh.
it.
You're gonna be there.
I didn't dig very hard, so.
Yeah.
Nah, I probably gotta leave here by, the flight board's at 9:45.
Where you flying?
Bismarck.
That's a drive. What the heck?
The problem is you can't you can either fly tonight or the first flight in doesn't get until 10 o'clock or 10:50.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Oh, that's crazy.
you can't have a business day like,
We should charter a little
Yeah.
flight out of
yeah, huh?
Deer Lake.
Sure.
So who's next?
Oh, do you
Mark
have
is
a
next?
over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it Dave or no?
Mark
The
Travas.
next
Mark.
person is
Travis.
Mark. Yep.
Mark is on planning as an alternate and is applying to come back, correct?
Correct.
Oh, we're calling him early, is that right?
Yeah.
Hello, Mark.
Hey, Mark, this is Mayor Hellier. How are you?
Oh, hello, Mayor Heather. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, hey, so is this a good time to do your interview?
It sure is.
Okay, so you've got the council here in the room, and I'll start off, kind of throw it out, and then we'll just kind of pass my phone here down the line.
Okay.
But, basically, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, one of the things, so because we had to do this meeting outside of the normal kind of interview process, we had to do it during a work session, so technically this is a public meeting, there's nobody publicly here, but it is recorded, so just so you know.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you just spend a little bit of time, talk about your last year as an alternate on planning? Just give me a perspective about, how many times did you have to fill in and what you enjoyed about it, or what were some challenges?
Sure. Yeah, it's been a great year. I probably filled in 7 times, and really ended up learning a lot. One of the things that I think I mentioned when we interviewed a year ago was I really thought the biggest watch out was the learning curve, because there was a lot of new concepts that I really hadn't been exposed to before. But I think, as I said in my application, I think the staff really helped prepare me. I think that the content to prepare myself with, the comprehensive land use plan and the material they sent me really helped. And then each meeting was like an example of something new. Some things drew more public comment than others. I think the biggest one I saw so far was the most recent one, which was the expansion of the mobile home park. But all those were really great learning experiences, and to understand how the city works, to understand external things like Met Council, for instance, and how that impacts how the Planning Commission does its job. I think it's been really helpful, and it reinforces itself each time you go to a meeting, prepare for it, and ask the questions. I think you get better at it. So I really enjoyed being part of the Planning Commission and getting to deal with those issues. So it's been a good experience.
Okay, good. I'm going to pass the phone down to Dan Walter.
Hey, Mark.
I did.
My question has to do with functioning as a team. Since you've been on the Planning Commission, tell us how well you think the Planning Commission functions as a team, and what skills do you bring to the table as a member of that team?
Sure. I think that the team works together really well. I think that expanded a little bit to the staff that helps us, Chris. I think they kind of keep us together with materials they provide. And then I think where the teamwork really comes is in the working sessions. It was just recently handled, talking about the tree preservation plan. I thought it was really helpful because we all bring different experiences. And you obviously know the rest of the commission. Many of them have access or experience in government, with Jason, with the Department of Transportation. And so I think that we do a good job of being very respectful about everybody's point of view, as well as being willing to share our points of view. So I think as far as what I bring to the table is my perspective with my business career and the long-term planning that was associated with that, and just being able to be a good listener as well as being able to express my opinion as well. So. I think it's a very effective group.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mark, John Bermal here.
Hi, John.
Hey, so the question I have for you is, as you look at the Planning Commission for the next 1 to 2 years, what do you think are going to be the biggest issues the Planning Commission will be deciding on and facing and those types of things?
Oh, great question. I think one of the things that came up in our last work session was, I think I mentioned the council, this idea of units per acre and how that can change. That's something that really alters some of the planning that had been done, something that needs to be adjusted to. So I think that if the Met Council does impose something with a higher unit per acre, I think that could affect how we look at some of the projects that come after that. And then I think there's the other concept is using remaining parcels of land that aren't ideal, aren't just big rectangles of formerly agricultural land, but little pieces left over from other things that need to be used appropriately and effectively. I think that that's a skill that everybody's learning, I think getting better at, but I think that's gonna be a part of it too.
Yeah, thanks.
Heather, this is Joshua Lee. I'm curious about your preparation process and how you know you're asking the right questions when it comes to the actual meeting. I have my own process for preparing for meetings, so I'm just trying to get in your head a little bit on how you ensure that you're prepared.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think I got better at preparing as the year went on. First of all, there are things that are kind of basic definitions that really probably aren't appropriate for the meeting. So I'm sure to email back and forth with Chris and get some basic questions answered at my first run through.
Mm-hmm.
And as I read it, I jot down questions as they come up. Typically that helps me rather than trying to read the whole thing through and then maybe go find it again. So I just write questions as I'm reading it, and some of the questions get answered as it continues further into the document. So that's great. I get to the end, and questions for Chris are obvious, and then there's questions that I bring to the meeting. Yeah, that's based on that process.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, this is Michelle Volk. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. Pretty good.
Awesome. So my question for you, since you've got this year behind you, is can you help me out and let me know what you think are the 3 important qualities that a member should have on the planning commission?
Oh, great question. Well, I think first of all, be prepared. I have gotten to know the other members of the planning commission and the city staff, and that is one of the things that they impressed on me, and it really bore itself out that you really do need to come prepared, because without that, there's really not a contribution to make. But I also think there's beyond that. I think number 2, it's being a good listener, particularly where the public is concerned, because they're going to bring insight that you really don't have until the meeting itself. So being able to listen and respond, and then I would say the 3rd one is to be a good collaborator, because it really is it's a group activity, it's a team activity. So it's being able to bring your point of view, not hang back, bring your point of view, but then also to be able to help the group get to consensus as other people share theirs.
Oh, thank you.
Certainly.
Well, Mark, as you know, we've got a whole bunch of interviews set up on March 8th. So we'll kind of go through that, and then right after that next week, we'll let everybody know. But thanks for setting aside some time tonight. Sorry we weren't able to accommodate your other schedule, but this worked out good.
Yeah, I think it did. So, thanks very much.
Yep. You bet. Have a good rest of your week.
Okay, you too.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you.
Aye.
Now we have Dave.
Mhm.
The only one, I will say, the last one, Jim MK, he is currently at the Lions meeting, so if we could, I told him we'd call him at that time, just so.
At 6:30.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, he's actually taking like world. I ran into him.
Hello.
Dave, Luke Elliott.
Hello, Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Good. Are you ready to do your interview or a hair early if that's okay?
I'm ready.
Okay. So
Give me 2 minutes.
just as housekeeping, we had, because of how we're scheduling this, we had to technically do this during a work session, so it is recorded, just so you know, but.
That's fine.
Okay. Well, 1, tell me how you're enjoying retirement, and then 2, how you kind of thought about the idea of wanting to serve on the arts board.
Sure.
it's been over 2.5 years already since I retired, which has gone by, extremely fast. I'm calling and I apologize for not being able to interview in person, but we just arrived in Florida here a day or two ago, and I will not be back in time, unfortunately, for when you've got the Saturday interview schedule coming up. So I appreciate the council's willingness to do an interview over the phone. So I very much enjoy retirement, but I'm also looking to get involved in some activities in the community, and for all the other council members. I not only worked in the city of Lakeville for over 20 years, I've lived in the city that entire time and continue to. And my wife and I just recently downsized to the townhome and plan to continue to live in Lakeville during our retirement years as well. My interest in the Art Center is that, and I made some notes, and I'm expecting questions along this line, but I've always felt that the Art Center is kind of one of the major art, if not the anchor of the downtown. And this, as mayor and several council members know, that part of my activities when I did work for the city as community economic development director was to work directly with downtown redevelopment activities and projects. And the Art Center, I think, played a key role in what I consider to be a resurgence and a lot of private investment in the downtown the last 20 years. And I don't see that. I don't see that changing. And I think the council's decision and action to acquire the school district's area learning center building next to the Art Center was a game changer, and something I think that was in the back of my mind for a long time. And when the opportunity came up, I think it's fantastic that the council, working with staff, came up with a way to make that acquisition happen. And I think it's just made a significant impact and provided obviously a lot more facility and classroom space and activity space, and not having to juggle activities between the Art Center and activities at the ALC, with the city basically having both of those buildings and the large public parking area in front has really been a benefit, in my opinion, to the Art Center. And I think the future is bright, and I know the former Art Center manager now is head of the park department, and Joe did a great job at the Art Center. I know he continued to do a great job as director of the Park and Recreation Department, but I think the future is bright, and there's a lot of things. And I guess I come to it not with a significant art background, either performing or other art forms, but I certainly take an interest, and I think it's a facility that adds to the quality of life in Lakeville, and offers residents with an opportunity to be exposed to different types of art activities right in our community. And with that, I'll pause and see if any of the council members have any questions.
Yeah, I'll pass the phone down to Councilmember Walter and Bermel, who are sitting to my right.
Hi, David, Stan Walter. And my question has to do with teamwork. Your experience functioning on a board and board or commission requires functioning as a team. What do you bring to a team setting, and what's your view of teamwork?
Well, this will be in a different role. I was more as a staff support for boards and commissions for most of my city career, and now I'm kind of on the other side of the table as an advisory board, working with staff and coming up with recommendations to forward to the council. But it's about building consensus, and obviously there's going to be a variety of opinions, and I know several of the current members on the Art Center board, and think that that there is going to be an opportunity to have healthy discussion and debates about specific aspects of what, and activities and programs that the Art Center is going to be pursuing in the future, or decide whether to continue to pursue now. So I think building consensus, obviously that was part of my role as a staff person, was to work with whether it was the Economic Development Commission or the Council or the Planning Commission on developing consensus and listening to all viewpoints and hopefully reach a consensus on a positive outcome or decision.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, John Bermel here.
John?
Quick question for you, just in terms of in the next year or two, what do you see as the big issue or issues that the Arts Board will be chewing on?
Well, it's my understanding that it was last year that the Art Center updated their strategic plan. I have not had the opportunity to spend a lot of time reviewing that document, but obviously that becomes kind of a roadmap of things, programs and other activities for the Art Center to improve and or pursue. And I think strategic planning is a important and very beneficial activity to pursue. And I've been involved in that in other departments of the city during my career there. And I think implementation of the pursuing the goals and objectives of the current strategic plan will certainly be a high priority.
Awesome, thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Joshua here. Sometimes folks apply to these commissions either with an axe to grind or a big idea. So I'm curious, I don't think it's the former for you. So what's your big idea?
Well, and I didn't always think this earlier in my career, but the last half of my or after coming to Lakeville, and this was the last 20 years of my 40-year career, there's definitely a nexus between the arts and economic development, and I think I kind of bring looking at it from that perspective and trying to provide input or comments or suggestions or ideas that can help build on that. I mean, I'd like to see, for example, and I don't know if Justin's in the room. He and I talked about this, during the latter part of my tenure at the city. But I think that other activities taking place, farmers market being one that comes to mind, is that how that could be expanded upon and integrated more, with the art center activities, and whether it involves bringing performing artists into the periods of time when the farmers market is going on. I know some other cities have really taken that farmers market type activities to another level to make it more not just a place to buy fresh fruit and produce and so forth, but to have a kind of an artistic or entertaining experience as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Dave, Michelle Volk.
Hello, Michelle.
So in general, can you name 3 qualities that you think are important for a member to have for this board?
Well, as I think first and foremost, to be a listener. I mean, a good listener, and I was asked earlier if I came in with a predetermined agenda or acid on, and I certainly don't. But to listen to all aspects of an issue, whether it's information being provided by staff or input from other board members, and weigh all that information before making taking any positions or recommendations as a board member anyway, individual board member be one. I think, and again, looking at the other aspects of the community, that I mean, the Art Center is kind of, I certainly don't have any to suggest that, I mean, it's not broke, don't fix it, but it is certainly a facility and programs that have expanded, and I had a recent conversation with Joe, and just the numbers of people that they're able to take into classes now with the expanded facilities, and it just expands the footprint and
And I think that can only improve more as we go down as the future of the Art Center and fully capitalize on the additional space and programming that's allowed. And the third one, I think, is to partner with other organizations. I think the Art Center has become the epicenter for Enterprise and for Taste of Lakeville, and I already alluded to the farmers market and the activities of the DLBA, Downtown Business Association, take place in some cases with the Art Center too. So just continue to develop those partnerships with other organizations, including the school district. It doesn't have a facility adjacent to it, or even their admin and administrative offices are now left downtown. But there's just more and more opportunities, I think, to partner with other organizations. I think that's three, I believe. So
Yeah. Well, that's our 10 minutes today. We appreciate it. And we've got, as you know, we've got the interviews on March 8th, and then we'll make our decisions at the day, and we'll let you know right after that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good rest of your vacation. Enjoy Florida. Hopefully get a spring training game in or two.
Yeah.
Yep, thanks, Dave. Yep.
Hold that machine.
He was telling me, so I ran into him at Sam's Club last week. And he was telling me that they were doing like a mega road trip and ended up in Florida. They were like visiting like people all over like Texas.
Oh, cool.
Long trip.
Yeah, I think when we set it up, he said he was gonna be in Florida for like days.
Yeah. Okay, so we can call Jim now.
Yeah.
It's here.
Jim's not on Park Spring.
It's a new appointee. Cursed. It's loud in Carmel.
Is there really meet?
So they do it Monday.
It was holiday. Maybe the holiday in?
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hey, Jim, it's Mayor Hellier. Give us a call when you get a chance to do this interview, 612-237-2551. And if you're unable tonight, that's fine. We'll just work out a time. Thank you, sir.
Oh, really?
You must have it.
Yes.
He's Paul.
Oh, Luke. You're gonna talk to the people that are here and tell them that you would accept some comments and when we get to that agenda.
Mhm.
And without being condescending to them, that when we get to that agenda item, then it's just a concept. And,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
But my question is, depending on what we do with it, do we even need it? So,
Need what, the comment? Yeah. So this one I want to structure a little bit differently. I think we should have a conversation first. Because if we go in a direction that I think either they really like or really don't like, it's going to change the tone of the comments. So I want to take the one at County Road 70 first, because that my understanding is that is potentially a plan. And the one at the Warwick property is more of like a concept. We'll just get.
oh, and then I have one more question. Am I on the D of the,
Yes, I think you are on deal.
okay, so I never got notice of the meeting. When do they? Or
Sporadically.
sporadically, okay.
I think that they may have some exec meetings right now about the food truck festival. There's some differences amongst the LVA members.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something.
Yep.
Do they also put the city on that list for calling a meeting? So Justin would know about it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll just let him know for the first time when they call and,
Yeah, and I don't,
Pass it
I'll have to
on
check with
just in
Tricia,
case,
if
like-
she's still the chair or not, or if they have a transition meeting. Ooh, excuse me. Text her right now. Yeah, so this trip I'm taking, I was supposed to go last week. But the Toronto crash backed up all the flight crews. And so at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they delayed my flight to leave in Minneapolis at 12:40 a.m. And so I told my traveling companion, like, this is going to get canceled. And by 7 o'clock, it had been canceled. And I wasn't going to get to Bismarck at 3 a.m. either.
I don't know where you plug in at.
2:20. Did you pick these outlets, Taylor?
No. I wasn't here when they built.
Plug
this.
into the middle there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, yeah.
Yeah, it was before me.
I'm gonna have, I mean, it's 6:37. Are you guys okay with me bringing
Yeah.
it down?
No, yeah, I'll take a little bit to
And if
do
he calls, then that's
it.
okay.
Chat at time, like.
Hey, I'm not rushing anybody. We couldn't get all the dudes, so. I call
This is Lakeville. He's always flying on it.
Or the
Flying in just before.
It's kind of close. Those high powered. They fly everywhere. They were seeing mine. No.
Maybe the door reader.
Right there. Right at the door.
Girls on.
Angry. You. Pitchfork. They got your name written on their chest. You know, it's just, yeah.
Josh, you two can sit here with me.
Okay. All open.
Yes.
Guys, don't step on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put on vibrate.
Okay. So we have, discussion items ahead of us. The first is, commercial site zoning review, and we've got two different ones we're gonna look at. The first is 210 and Juniper, so I'll turn over to Tina to kind of tee this up. For those of you joining, this is by Trinity Church in Lakeville South. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor and members of the council. So as the memo explained, we have a couple of sites that we wanted to get some preliminary input from you from a land use and zoning standpoint. So this is often initiated. We have these conversations when we start getting calls. Property owners are interested in selling their property. We hear a lot from people who are making proposals on property and have different ideas for how the property might be currently guided or currently zoned. So that is why we are coming before you on a couple of these sites. So when we start seeing a consistent pattern where more and more people are having interest in a certain property for a certain reason, it really becomes that first step to share that information with all of you. And then really determine if there is any interest for a potential change. We are not talking about any kind of specific development proposal whatsoever tonight. We do not have an application. This is a preliminary conversation. On a couple of these sites, or these two sites tonight, we did to get some assistance from Josh McCuney to my left of Measure Group. It's his role to work with cities as well as with developers and kind of find that match, do that site selecting, help make sites work for future development. And then on the one site that's on your screen, he does have a developer. I'll allow Josh to introduce him, who is interested in that property. So the first one is we're calling it the 210th site, 210th Street site. So this is south of 210th, north of Juniper Way, right next to Trinity Church. The property is zoned and guided for OP, office park. Again, we've had numerous conversations with the property owners over the years. They've been trying to sell this property for a long time, but it has a lot of constraints for a traditional OP site or for industrial development. So there's the location, and you can see the context of the site broadening out. If you recall, there is one, cursor's not working, that south, the triangle to the south, that was approved for the likewise industrial building. It's a completely different type of site in terms of topography and so forth, and the one outlined in yellow. And then you can see the Trinity Church, and then to the south, the Dunham property. And again, here is the zoning map. And then a conceptual plan. Again, conceptual plans are often created so that we can have that conversation. So the council can understand what a different type or variety of development pattern could be created there. This is not a development application. I just want to make that very, very clear. But I'm going to turn it over to Josh to kind of summarize what he sees as challenges, what staff sees as challenges, and what might be a solution.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Josh McKinney with the Measure Group. You did a great job of kind of introducing what my business does, which is really kind of identify opportunities kind of in areas of, I would say, high development activity, and determine, is the current zoning and guidance, something that needs to be looked at in order to facilitate development in the future. So tonight, with this particular site, there's a couple of things that are really difficult with regards to the current office park guidance, and even more difficult with what that typically means in the market today in terms of what office park is and what it is not. So the first of which really is a lot of topography across this site. So what we're seeing in terms of the need for, or that the development patterns with office industrial or office warehouse or something of what a modern office development would look like, are often looking for sites that frankly have less than 50 feet of grade change on it, like this one does. Large contiguous areas of developments to make that square footage is, 100,000 square foot plus in order to be financially viable. And frankly, the ability to, provide additional scale so that they have maybe more than one building or a couple of larger buildings to share a truck dock. So this site's difficult for those reasons, or is incompatible for those reasons, just because of the topography, but also the location of a wetland that's located basically smack dab in the middle of this site. So when, I'm looking at this particular site and saying, hey, what, if it's not, if it were to be something besides an office park use, if it was something that was, different, and the city of Lakeville were interested in changing the guidance of the site, what would be appropriate? And so there's a couple of things. You could look at, market rate multifamily, but, the location of this, relative to existing neighborhoods, maybe wouldn't be as palatable. You could look at it from a pure townhome standpoint. But simply that, if we're going to change the density, is at least worth a conversation to determine, is an increased, more high dense product something that the city would be looking for closer to the interstate and closer to existing shopping. So as Tina mentioned, tonight's a conversation in terms of what's appropriate, what is or is not appropriate. It just so happens that I have Jeff Cook here with Norse Companies, who is interested in developing this site, has had discussions with the landowner, has the site largely under contract, waiting for the last couple signatures, but looking to do something like what's showing on this site, which is, or something similar to it in terms of a use, but looking for some feedback tonight over if the mayor and council find, the current guidance is something that needs to be reviewed, and if so, is what we're showing on this screen appropriate in terms of density? So I think this site is maybe, I'll leave it there. Yeah.
Tina, is there currently access 270, or is it a program for that? Because I always know it's very
There'd be some,
tenuous with county access.
thank you. Yeah, due to spacing guidelines, there would be some limited access. We were really looking at how this site could develop with the primary access being off of 210 rather than the primary being off of County Road 70.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention a couple of other site planning things, if you permit me to just kind of.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the reason why the site's laid out like this, and once again, this is just a sketch and certainly can have other discussions, is with that significant grade change occurring kind of on the eastern edge of that property, one of the things that we were trying to do is utilize the building like what's shown as almost as a retaining wall, and to take up the bulk, or a significant portion of that grade change while using the building rather than large retaining walls that are simply excess costs and are not something that's leasable. Additionally, the hill off to the east that's located on the church property would do along with the trees on top of it, would do a really good job of screening that height from the adjacent single family neighborhood. And then the townhome use in this situation would do a much better job of kind of articulating and providing as much flexibility around that wetland and those existing trees as possible. So the thought process is just, basically utilize a building as a retaining wall and then have a more flexible building type to avoid impacts to wetlands in that situation. That's why this is like this. Once again, it's for discussion.
Yeah. The other question, Tina, for you that I have, Trinity has been trying to market their excess land.
Mhm.
Have you had conversations with them, and would this help their future prospect? Because I just know they've had a big challenge trying to do that.
It very well could. We have not had, kind of taken this step by step,
Yeah.
trying to see the temperature of the council. But I should have mentioned that. So the Trinity Church, the building is in the RM1, that orange, but there is excess OP land that changing it to the same zoning, if a change was made, could help that portion of their site develop.
Do you say Cook?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about your concept at all, or you just want to listen to what we have to say?
Sure. Yeah. So, morning, Mayor, or good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Jeff Cook with Norse Companies. I've been in real estate development for about 15 years. I was an owner at Norse Companies for 12 of those years. So recently sold off and kind of started my own venture development company. I specifically worked in the city of Lakeville with Daryl Morey on the North Lake Lofts project right next to the Target off 185th. So I was the lead developer and worked with Daryl and staff to get that project approved. It was a similar state where the city was not supportive initially on multifamily around that area, but if you see what's happened to that area once that apartment went through, it drove some additional synergies with the area. So you saw the MedTech office go in there, you saw another couple of restaurants go in there. So it helps drive and spur more investments in the area. And I feel like that's left a lot better area because of multifamily developed there. That was 26 units an acre, which aligns with the city of Lakeville's high density zoning guidance. So it's 8 acres on 26 acres, which is why the 208 apartment units there. In this location specifically, as Josh mentioned, we are basically under contract. We have a purchase agreement agreed on both sides. Just needs to be executed. So we are under contract with the family on this site. Specifically with my new venture, I've focused a lot in build to rent communities. So I have a 20-acre project up in Maple Grove that's 208 townhomes. That's guided for more basically market rate townhomes, mainly focused on providing affordable housing solutions for young professionals. In this instance, it's, as you see, geared towards more active adult, 55 plus, kind of creating a full continuum of care campus. While with Roars, I developed 6 full continuum of care housing communities. The closest one here is Havenwood of Burnsville, but it was all under the Havenwood brand, so full continuum with memory care, assisted and independent living. Here, it's guided, or initial thoughts. Again, we've just been talking very high level with Tina, that it's a active adult community. There might be some services where a lot of the technologies now with wearable devices can help drive more medical needs as needed. And so there could be that component to it, but mainly focused on providing a community that's walkable for active adults to 55 plus, where they have a variety of housing options from, moving from a 5,000 square foot house in Lakeville, downsizing, selling their house, opening that up for new families to come through, and then they move here in a little bit smaller. These homes would average around 1,800 square feet, 2 to 3 bedrooms. The primary bedroom would be on the main level, so kind of focused on acknowledging that. But as Josh said, the topography kind of goes, this is the high point up here. And so the grade kind of falls this way. And so we'd use this building with underground kind of heated concrete precast structure to basically act as a retaining wall here to hold that grade. And you can see all the topography lines. There's a lot of grade change here. And so this would kind of hold that grade high, and then this would all be kind of more, less grade change once you kind of hold it all up here. As Josh mentioned, with this wetland right in the middle and the amount of grade change, it's hard to kind of envision a big office building. Most industrial buildings groups are building now are, anywhere from 100 to 1 million plus square feet, which you've seen a lot further down, 70 here. Yeah. What's that?
And then we got density of 13.7.
Yeah, so
about half of what the maximum is.
right. So 26 is kind of City of Lakeville's guidance for high density housing. So this is, half that. It's just right at the cusp of, medium density to high density. And so the curb cuts for roadways kind of aligns with the office to the north. Then there's existing kind of curb cut here and here. We, potentially work with the county on, could we make this a full access point? Spacing wise, it, looks like it, but those are kind of the main entrances.
Council, questions, comments? Would this type of development require 2 access points?
Typically, fire and emergency likes two access points.
It could be a partial access point though. For example, on 70, if we weren't able to gain the full access point, even if it was a right in, right out, that's sufficient. And just from the general traffic standpoint, a good reliever from the one access point, kind of these sort of stacking note around it. From a true traffic standpoint, something we have to look into as a traffic study as we proceed.
Or is there a way to, because I think my concern is having access, especially even full access on County Road 70. Not too keen on adding another cross point for traffic there, especially with the truck traffic that's coming back and forth. So to me, I'd be more comfortable with a design like this even if we needed two access points, that they were both on 210 and that we were maintaining a significant berm barrier between that community and the road.
On 210 or 70?
On the berm being on 70.
Okay.
Not necessarily on 210. So that's just my commentary that if this were to go forward, I would really be hesitant towards that 70 access point, if at all possible. That just seems like a bad idea. From a use standpoint, I think it adjacently works well with the church to the east, and density wise works well with what will likely go in west of there. For the wetland to the southeast, that's OP2, but do you look at that area at all? I mean, what could that complex be looking over potentially?
You're saying the parcel directly to the south of the church?
Right.
Yeah, so I have not studied that parcel. It is something that we would obviously in with the church in terms of trying to make something cohesive. I would envision, just with the grades being a little bit more favorable in that area, that would probably be some additional townhomes, honestly. Just because of, any additional towns that ultimately feed that larger building is a good thing for kind of the community as a whole, just from a population standpoint. But I would be foolish to be telling you like exacts without really a lot more study to it, frankly.
Yeah, well, I think that's just a comment in terms of my reaction to what would be adjacent to it.
Yeah.
Do those uses match?
Sure.
Other comments? Okay. I would tend to agree. I mean, we've talked to this family a lot. This is a challenging parcel, and for whatever reason, just can't seem to get going through the OP. I like the idea of how it's set up with, focus on seniors and active adults and those things, and kind of some different types. I think it might be a good fit. I'm going to open up. Anybody in the audience have any comments about?
I have several comments.
Okay, Bob, hang on.
My name's Larry Jones. I live on 210th Street. First off, just be a little facetious. This is a community for older people. I hope you're planning to put all the deaf people alongside 70. The noise along 70 now with Amazon and all the semis and stuff like that, it's getting unbelievable. Plus, on the south side down there, you do know you have a recycling process plant down there that redoes pallets and stuff like that, and it's noisy. And my concern is that how you're going to control the noise on that south side of that development. And secondly, like you pointed out, that entrance on 70 would not be a good idea. You would be much better off going with two entrances on 210th Street and handling it that way. That would be my only concern with it, is the noise level, because that recycling plant down there is not going away. And if you notice, what has developed is the eyesore when you drive down there and look at all the wood pallets and stuff like that and debris that they have out there. It's not exactly something you want to look at out the back door.
Sure.
Your property. Thank you. That's all.
This would be the first senior plus 55 community townhomes in Lakeville. That's 2-story. So in 35 years, there's only one 2-story 55 and older community, and they have elevators in each unit. So I'd like you to address that. The comment he just made about the 4-lane, the Jake breaks in here. You'd want to have a substantial berm there for those residents. I'm just sharing that from a planning perspective. I think that was the only, but if you could just address the 2-story units, the townhomes, like no senior residents in Lakeville currently have sought 2-story townhomes. They want at grade. And that's why all of them, except for the one I mentioned across from the library, Mr. Wentzman built those, and each unit has its own elevator for the second level. So they come home, they drive in their garage, they get in the elevator, bring their groceries to the second floor. That was his theory, and it's worked well. And those are in demand. If one ever comes up for sale, it's sold instantly. So I think that's an important issue. Then the final issue, I wonder what staff is thinking about taking away their commercial zoning. And does this force those 2 property owners next to it to have something other than residential? So it's a serious issue where you're talking about rezoning, changing the comp plan. Those are important issues. But respecting your points on the geographics, I think this has to be taken into account. Does this adversely affect that? If I were those residents and I learned about this, I'd be concerned about devaluing my property. I don't know them personally. I just want to mention that.
Isn't it though, right there is, right adjacent though, what's green, is that green space? What is that? So right, am I looking at the right? Oh, no.
The
that's
property
what-
immediately to the west is
Yeah.
one, it
Yeah,
goes across County Road 70.
yeah, I'm looking at it now.
I would also mention, in terms of access location and how it might impact that property to the west. I mean, if what we're hearing tonight is, hey, much better to have a couple of access points on 210. We can certainly, have that discussion with the adjacent neighbor to determine if an access point is more favorable to them in terms of some sort of shared access. That's probably a better situation from a traffic standpoint anyway. We're hearing loud and clear, hey, a berm needs to go on 70th. We have a 50-foot setback along 70th right now, so we should be able to accomplish that. It's vegetated and provide some additional noise buffering. Like, I feel confident as a landscape architect, we can probably execute that. The point regarding architecture, I mean, you can speak to it, Jeff, but I mean, we're at sketch plan, or we're not even at sketch plan, no, really. We're super early, but I do know that you had planned on kind of a single level living with a couple of additional bedrooms up for like guests and, if their kids come home for Christmas and whatnot. The main level of living would be on the first level of the home.
Yeah, the thought is, you have your 2-car garage main level, you have your kitchen main level, you have your living main level, you have your primary suite main level. So all, if you want to live all 1-level living, this is 55 plus. It's not, 70 plus. Granted, majority of the people that move in are probably in their 60s or 70s. But this provides kind of the best of both worlds. And a lot of what you see on the market today is a split level, where a lot of your living is up, but then you have a basement with, a couple spare bedrooms down. It just basically inverses that. So you have 1-level living on your main, you have a couple bedrooms upstairs for a den, for your grandkids, for, crocheting, whatever you want, up. And so, and if you really are adverse to stairs, that's why we have a full active adult community with elevators and fitness and amenities, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, hi, Adam White. So I live at the end of Kensington. So in order, like when I was going to high school, I would drive up Kensington, take a right or left on 210 and then to school. I mean, the traffic there gets pretty congested. I would just say like that's something to consider if you ever drive to school in the morning when everyone's going at the same time, and same thing on the way out. You know, just the level of, you know, especially if you're gonna have two entrances on a 210, so.
Thank you for this.
Are you saying these are gonna be slab homes? There's not gonna be a basement?
Unless there's a, you know,
If we could,
raised,
if we could have speakers give their name and address for
Okay.
the record, everybody please. And
Rick Ringhouse.
and have the mayor recognize.
Sorry. Go ahead, Rick. Rick Ringeisen, 20085 Italy Avenue, Lakeville. Are you saying, I asked if it was gonna be slab homes? And if that's the case, is there gonna be a storm room in those homes?
Like, yeah, like a pantry or internal room. We're just not at that point of design
No,
yet.
not an internal room. I mean, an actual
Understood, like a
tornado room.
understood. Yeah, we're just not at the point of design yet. And I would just say I would say a majority of these are probably on slab on, but you might utilize a walkout unit, you know, in areas that instead of building retaining walls, we could use a walkout unit, have a basement, you know, that's truly a walkout piece. So just TBD, honestly, I wish I could give you more information in terms of the design of it's not there.
Okay. Council, thoughts about, we want to see more from here before we have zoning decisions, or?
I've probably got an archaic position on this, but I'm concerned about the amount of commercial and OP land that we're rezoning for residential, just with the long-term fiscal issues that's going to create for us with an imbalance in how property taxation works. So I'm, and I understand OP is kind of a placeholder for farmland that we're waiting for people to want to liquidate, or as the case in the other property we're going to be talking about. But I think that's a discussion that probably should happen as part of the comp plan process if we're going to be looking at bigger changes in the OP zone. So it's not a firm position, but I'm not real excited about the zoning. So.
Okay. Yeah, John.
One of the things I thought of when I looked at this whole memo was, and like Dan was talking about, is we've been reluctant to rezone. I understand this isn't commercial, that this is office park. So I share some of the same concerns. However, we've also seen tracts of land that have sat for 2 decades. And, there's just no interest in zoning, developing it as zoned. So I want to hear a little bit more about the history of this land, and it sounds like it's been available for a while. And so I would like to hear a little bit more about why, and you explained it in the memo, a lot of it is terrain, and the terrain just isn't suitable for an OP. People don't want to put office parks in those types of terrain. But in the back of my mind, I keep going, we've been reluctant to do this type of deal before without a compelling reason. And that compelling reason has usually been because it's just sat for so long and the zoning isn't working. And we've been able to continue to, even if we've zoned it to residential, leave some of the original zoning. So I think those are the two things that jump out for me. In terms of the concept, I like the concept. But I'd want to hear a more compelling case for making zones.
So my thought process was when I saw it in these in the packet, I thought, no, I'd really like to look at the whole pie at some point. I don't know why I realize that it's coming to us because it's driven by some interest, but I'd rather look at the whole pie and say, okay, even though we're mid comp plan, what are we willing to change as a whole, as a pie, and why? And that would be a fairly long, it'd be a significant portion of a work session, but I would prefer to do it that way. I like the concept, but but it's only the piece of the pie. And so I'm not really sure how it affects the rest of it. And, meaning, what's the domino effect? Positive or negative, for the whole area around there. So, and most definitely don't want anybody 55 or older trying to get on to 70 one way or another. I just, that's, as I get older, I avoid any situation that is going to question my ability to react positively. So, and that, I even dread going through roundabouts, double ones. So, so.
When you say the whole pie, you mean the entire city, or are you talking about
Yeah, though.
70, 35 and 70 as like
I would,
the regional?
I think if we're gonna talk about changes and why certain areas should be changed because of topography, et cetera, we should be talking about it as a whole city. Yes, I understand what you're saying. You know, I'm asking for a bigger conversation. If we're only gonna talk this area, then you're only talking a quarter of the pie. And I think because, you know, we're not willing to give up like some commercial lands and some things like this. And I think we have to really think, yeah, it kind of bites that it sits there for a couple decades, but also have to think about the future and what new things will come along down the pike. And then, you know, what changes did we make that affected not being able to have those new things, et cetera. But I'm kind of going off on a tangent. I would prefer to look at the whole city as a whole so that we strategically plan a little bit better for some of the little changes.
Comp plan is 26.
We'll start. I mean, we're gonna get, I mean, the Met Council approved their regional plan. So we know generally the forecast, you know, formal forecast statements will come out in September. That's kind of our kickoff. So budget for starting that plan in 26.
But then it takes like 2 years.
Yeah, year and a half, 2 years.
It'll be due in 28.
Yeah.
Due in 20.
Lakeville has traditionally always started right away. It's done way before the due date, but it is a process and it does take time.
Mm-hmm.
We are, you know, bringing these sites, you know, prior to that, because we are, this land has been for sale for a long, long time. And it's been a difficult property. I've asked numerous industrial brokers to look at this parcel and they all say it's not going to work for industrial. And OP, the way the OP ordinance is structured today is probably different than it was 10 years ago. I wasn't here then, I don't know, but the way it is structured today, it's basically a fancier version of an I-1. So most of the same uses that are allowed in I-1 are also allowed in OP. People are building office buildings other than medical. And we have certainly seen a lot of that. But straight up office campuses aren't happening anymore. And then when you couple that with all of the other challenges, getting a building like that's in the South Triangle, likewise one that we recently approved, is the I-35 logistics, I can't remember the name of the plot. That site's completely different than this one from the challenges. It doesn't have the same challenges with the topography. It doesn't have the same challenges with the wetlands. And so as you're moving away from some of that OP and industrial area, is this now a chance to shift that land use? And after having those conversations, hearing the pleas from the owners, can we change it? You know, there was a lot of interest in just covering the entire site with townhomes versus introducing some density. And I really like the idea on this kind of a corridor to introduce some density with that. So that is how this concept got created. In terms of the property to the south, we are working very hard with the Dunham family to shift those unique recycling uses to the south. And there is still 600 acres currently, before any additional expansion of the city, for continued industrial type of development. So that is kind of the history as I know it in only 2.5 years for this site and why we're bringing it here now versus, having the property owner wait another potential 2.5 years.
Yeah, I guess, I was just looking for more of an interim discussion so that we could just see everything as a whole versus just spots. But I can always come into City Hall and do it myself, I guess. But the other thing that I'm slightly uncomfortable with, I like, it's the building that's gonna be the retaining wall. And maybe it's just because the drawing's so flat. What I'm trying to figure out is if the green space with next to Trinity were to be sold and developed, that's a really ugly building suddenly to have in the middle. I mean, I don't, to me, I shouldn't say ugly building because I'm sure you'll design it really well. But the back side of it affects what's gonna happen on the east of it. So while it becomes really convenient to develop that property to do it that way, since we haven't discussed changing the whole area over there to something different, then I don't know how it affects the east side.
Yeah.
And what it looks like. I'm sorry.
If it's something that council would like to do a broader review of like what this site, how this impacts maybe the Trinity Church parcel, we obviously would not want to show up, some sort of concept without having a discussion with Trinity Church as well. But whether it's this developer or someone else developing that piece that's south of Trinity Church, how that would fit together, I would need to spend some time on that and take a look at it. I hear you in terms of like, yes, you're in that situation, you're going to have an exposed corner of that building. But I could make an argument that additional development then of, some sort of step down in scale that's adjacent to it would be a better situation than leaving it open, frankly. So I get it. I hear you. Like, we need to be cognizant of that and paying attention to that as the, if the site would to move forward. But I don't have enough information to have any sort of intelligent conversation about how that would and would not fit there. I just know that we, if given an opportunity, we could have that discussion at a later date. What I don't want to have happen today is where the worst thing that we can come away from this meeting, frankly, is maybe that, it's something that we might look at, a re-guidance or maybe would be entertaining some sort of increase in density, because that leaves someone like Jeff kind of in limbo, of like, hey, I'm about ready to close on this land, or I'm under contract. What do I do with it? Because we know that the current guidance is not something that's marketable. So that's and Tina did a good job of also just kind of adding a little bit of color of like, yeah, there's 600 acres to the south of this. That's also industrial. That's a lot flatter than what we're looking at here. So I think what we're trying to do is say, hey, we've got, there is a potential issue relative to the current guidance not being something that you're going to see, especially in lieu of a much more straightforward path for that use type further to the south. And then what do you have in the middle? It's kind of a donut, unless we address what that use would be. That could kind of accommodate the grading and the wetlands and all these other challenges. And so that would be what I'd say is like, I understand your perspective, council member. I really do, of like wanting more information and wanting to look at this as a whole. Unfortunately, that would be a difficult task for a single developer to look at that's wanting to look at, a development of this parcel, which he has under contract. And so I get it.
No, I guess I was trying to figure out a way for us to open up opportunities for Tina and her staff, because we had already agreed to certain areas that we would be willing to change an open status to something else because of the development that's taken place around it, but to look at the city as a whole, where are these areas so that they could be marketed sooner than concepts coming this way and we're piecemealing. I guess I was just trying to figure out a way to be a little bit more proactive than reactive. Now, if the concept of a senior community like that this is laid out and that it's something that's contained and it's something special for the people that are living in there, you know, kind of like a homeowners association type of living for them. No, I'm all for it. I think it's beautiful. The wetlands is gonna, you know, make some great opportunities for quality of life in those townhomes, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that what we're doing. So I like the concept. I just would like to be able to make sure that we're not
Sure.
causing an
I
issue.
understand. My take on it is, I think it's because we've seen this kind of the industrial area. And is the OP still right there? I don't know. But I do know is that development on this parcel is going to help push redevelopment at 70 and mixed up area,
Right.
which we need.
What we,
And so if this is a way to help push redevelopment, you know, at Motel 6 and all these other areas, I'm willing to have more conversations about it. Because that, if you think long-term, having something here is going to help drive it.
right.
So if we don't think that it's going to be OP and it's something like this, then that's a conversation we need to have.
Mayor, if I might.
Yep.
I know there's been a lot of questions about the design and all that. Really, the question before you tonight is, are you comfortable with the idea of changing this zoning or the guiding from office park to residential? That's the question that they need to leave this room with tonight.
Yeah, I don't think you had 4 people
And
saying that.
we'll take a comp plan. So that does not mean that if you nod your heads tonight that you're giving approval to anything. All right. There's a whole long list of things that still has to happen before they would even get close to bringing this back for further review. So I think, this just shows what could be on the site. They've clearly heard about some concerns they have about whatever goes on this site, where the access is and things like that. Policy question is are you comfortable with the notion of changing this from an office park guiding to a residential guiding?
Yeah, and I didn't hear majority or consensus or anywhere near 4 for that. Unless after a conversation, people felt differently.
I just don't want to pick this just right now in this.
You're not picking this.
No, to change it from OP to. I think I agree with the topography and the things that are around. I agree. I just don't want to pick one area and change it without looking at more of the area to make sure that I'm picking right.
Yeah, no, and I get what you're saying. I think
But it's,
picking winners and losers, I get that. I mean, I think when we go through a comp plan, we're going to run into a lot of situations like this where some zoning is going to change probably pretty dramatically. Just based on, I mean, if the west side of 35 continues to develop the way we think it will, it changes all sorts of stuff. The biggest challenge though is we've always talked about, when you lose commercial, it's probably not coming back. And when you say it, it's almost unlikely. It's impossible. It's unlikely you're going to take some zone residential and change it to commercial, right?
right.
So I get where you're coming from for that. But if you look at this parcel by itself and not in that kind of pie, I get what you're saying. But
if I may, I've heard kind of 3 votes in favor of, we need to look at it further and make sure we're doing we're good stewards of the land because you're rezoning from office park to residential. And so I completely understand that concern, that you want to be good stewards for the community and not set it up long-term to the detriment of the community. And I think the zoning law allows you that leeway to look at specific sites due to site constraints. I think this is a perfect example where we're bringing forth and the zoning and the comp plan is acting as it should, which is you guys are loosely saying this area we think will be office park, but for if there are site constraints. And here we're coming to you saying there are site constraints. It's been on the market for 20 plus years and nobody has come forth and said, let's build an office park here.
And then what I'll say to you, I think it's really up to you, because what I'll say is we've had conversations in the past where we've kind of been this way and then we've denied it. So if you're willing to continue to spend money to come up with some more detailed plan, I think we probably would look at it. But how much time and effort do you want to spend it? If the minds are changed, I guess is mine. But if you're wanting to put more pen and paper, I think we have more conversation, or
Yeah, I would like to have more conversation. I'm leaning towards, I like the idea. So I'm leaning towards that, but I can't get there because I don't know my domino effect.
Sure.
So so if I take the mayor's suggestion then, well, he didn't suggest it, but if I narrow in on that whole area, the 70 area, and we have a strategic discussion about somebody needs to go and tell me where all the other areas are, where the land topography is, and you're gonna, probably throw out some different ideas that the OP isn't gonna work.
and this was similar when the neighborhood that's being built right now by King Park across from the police station, that was OP, went through a similar kind of process. Now that was much less density than this, but it was the same kind of situation where we just were not gonna get an office to build next to King Park, just wasn't.
The only option.
Excuse me, sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
My other concern that we brought up with this landowner owner before is that really the most likely use in an OP is light industrial. And without full access to County 70, that traffic's going on to 210. And as someone who lives 2 blocks away from there, I don't like industrial traffic coming onto the residential roads.
Yeah.
So as I see this, I am looking at this favorably because of the type of traffic, and with the right adjustments, I think can work well for this particular site. Because as Councilmember Walter talked about, I'm not too keen on changing districts on a whim or too quickly without full review. This one though has really been looked at a lot, and I think needs to be changed to be appropriate for really any development. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
If you want kind of a where I'm at meter, the default is, I don't like the changes, but I've been convinced before. And I like the concept for this area. I've heard now that this has been 20 some years, but I still, in terms of just wanting to switch it, I kind of like what Councilmember Volk is talking about, just in terms of, I want to make sure we aren't just doing this kind of willy-nilly isn't the word, because we plan well and we execute well. But okay, here's an opportunity and here's an opportunity, and then all of a sudden you do 2, 3 opportunities and you realize that you should have taken a bigger look at what's going on. So I'm open to it, I guess is the way to say it. I've been open to it. I changed my mind on a couple other ones because I really like the use that's proposed. I really like the layout and the history of the property. So I'd rather see a property used than sitting empty. And so it just doesn't make sense in my mind to have it sit empty. So for these types of changes, I just want to see a really good case for this just is not going to work. And I'm hearing that.
You said, okay. So I think I mean, if you want to keep working at it and we'll have a conversation, I think obviously staff understands that we want to have some sort of inventory to understand where we're at from OP and, you know, I mean, we're getting to the point where I keep saying there's very few commercial developments, but when you have the site topography, it's a different kind of conversation. And I don't know if you want to, it might be helpful to, if engineering or something can kind of give us a sense of, okay, this has been zoned OP, it's flat, we think it works. These are gonna be the challenging sites you need to create.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I'm saying? And because
That's what I mean.
you know, you think about, there's a half a dozen I can think about that are like that. And if they were easy, they would have been done a long time ago. And that's just
Yeah, I mean, we can do that pretty easily. The vast majority of all the office park zone property is within half a mile of this property here.
Okay.
There's some spots across that are, one you're gonna talk about next, that's half and half. There's a manufactured home park that has that designation that's built, and then there's where Lifetime is, that's. So all the undeveloped office park property is in this area.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of them have challenges, like the one across 210th had some covenant stuff on it, right? And how it's developed, and so.
Yeah, I mean, the heyday of office parks, you know, a lot of this, now granted, some of it doesn't have utilities yet, so it's not in the MUSA. But, you know, something happened between 2018 when we did our last comp plan that really hurt the future of the office market. You know, so, suburban office park, it's gonna look different.
Okay.
No more public comment?
On 210.
Yeah. Is it relevant?
I think it is. First of all, I want to compliment Tina Goodroad in her efforts to get the Dunham property immediately across to relocate on their property to the south. She's worked tirelessly for a year, and each time you think you're getting closer, it doesn't happen. The reason that that's an important issue for you is that these residents currently from the largest wood processing system in 5 states generates air ambient qualities that are not conducive for a person to live near. I want you to be successful. My comments earlier about 2-story, 555, I want you to be successful. And I appreciate what you do because that's what I do for Wildermere. And that's what I've done when I was Minnesota, when I was the vice president of D.R. Horton, Minnesota. So I talked about the berm based on the DB, the noise levels here are pretty significant. From a Councilmember Volk's point, that has to be addressed. You can't leave those people making an assumption that now their property is going to be residential and as opposed to what it is. I mean, that's just a logical scenario. You haven't told us, is this market rate? Are these market rate? Okay, no subsidies, because that would be of concern to the people that are in this room tonight. Has there been discussion, Tina, about access to this property from the current intersection at 215th, which is a full intersection, which could be signalized, which could serve, it may be able to serve this. 215th, so I think you should look at 215th as a likely intersection which currently exists, and a full intersection is already approved by the county. So you don't have that hurdle to overcome. And I think that has merit. And I think that would be, help me out, that would be down in this area. Little bit, okay. I appreciate that. But on the flip side, that investment might yield the kind of access that would benefit this opportunity. So you've answered my questions. And I think we want people to be successful in what, and I think you've offered a concept. Do you need 14 units an acre to succeed? You don't have to answer that.
Okay. we're gonna move on to the other concept, and this is the Warwick site. Which is, off of County Road 50 and Ava area.
Real quick, she's having,
Do I need to get out?
we just need to, I think somebody's trying to get in on Teams real quick.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Door even just closed too. Not a single hole.
You hand me that cup.
Okay. So, thanks for that discussion. So we'll move on to this one. Tina, I'll have you kick it off. I think if you could give a little bit of background on, how this kind of came up and so forth, and, then we'll have us have a conversation.
Yep, and for the audience, this is even more preliminary than the last one. I have no knowledge of a person who has anything under contract, but all of the parcels are for sale that George Warwick owns. So the parcel that's identified in yellow is what we're talking about tonight. It's a 25-acre piece owned by the George Warwick Trust. He also owns the parcel to the north that's vacant, and then the one immediately adjacent on Ipava. Those are already zoned and guided for residential. So all four of those pieces, or all three of these pieces, are currently for sale. I've met with the attorney representing the trust. They have numerous proposals on these properties, including the 25-acre piece. So the piece that's outlined in blue is the 25-acre piece we're talking about tonight. It is a split zoning of OP and C3, general commercial. It has a little history. Again, I've only been here 2.5 years, so I don't have all the history, but back in 2016, George did sell a piece of property to the city to expand Antlers Park. At that time, he requested that no land use or zoning change be made. That expired after 7 years, so that expired in 2023. When the comp plan was being done, it was identified for medium density. That's this orange. Couldn't make that change at the time of the 2040 comp plan because of that restriction until 2013. So it's been contemplated in the past for this property to be residential. Again, I've been in communication with numerous builders, developers on this property. We've seen very, very preliminary sketch. The majority of what we have seen as staff is filling the entire site with townhomes. Again, I know all three parcels are they're ready to choose one of the proposals that they have obtained. So the property will be sold very soon. But again, no specific request, no known developer at this time, and no rezoning request at this time. But because of that, you will be faced with a rezoning request more than likely. So because we were, I was working with Josh on that parcel, I thought, I want to get his opinion and see what he thoughts from a development standpoint.
Don't throw him on.
No, I'm not, but
I'm here.
visuals,
Just do it, Tina.
visuals help, and really wanted to understand what is the highest and best use for this property. And it too, like the last one, has some very unique challenges for commercial to work on this site. So I'll let Josh jump into those. I'll move on to, again, concept. I'm going to say that a million times. And no traffic study, none of that's been analyzed yet. None of it. Take it away.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll reiterate, this is a concept. So like Tina mentioned, we were just looking at basically, hey, what is this? If I knew nothing about the guidance of this, what would it want to be in terms of like from a commercial real estate standpoint? What is its highest and best use? So a couple of things from a commercial standpoint that are difficult. One, the site access is actually very challenging. We've got a signalized intersection at Ipava and County Road 50. But typically of a commercial development of a scale of 25 acres, you're going to want multiple, solid access locations Even a perfect example is actually across the street, just north of, on the north side of County Road 50, where you can see there's a partial access that's located literally almost at the midpoint prior to where it starts to curve. So those additional access points and the visibility are the primary drivers for commercial traffic, along with traffic counts. In this particular situation, however, in addition to the access concerns, this site is faced with visibility, a variable visibility, I guess we would call it, in terms of the railroad car storage that occurs on the south side of County Road 50. That car storage, however intermittent it might be, would impact your ability to attract a national credit tenant that could, take down 25 acres of commercial land and parcel it up in a way that either a grocery store or something like that could come that way. And so those are, I guess, the primary drivers of commercial being difficult. In addition to just, frankly, there's much better commercial locations throughout the city of Lakeville than what we're seeing here in terms of traffic counts, in terms of visibility of angle, the angle of kind of where you're at on the road and how you're looking at this type of parcel. Particularly if you're headed south, it's difficult. It would be difficult, just something difficult and deep into this site. And then, from there it was really like, okay, well, then what does it want to be? Or what type of commercial could it support? And I could see it supporting something like a daycare or something like a medical office type user that is more of a destination base, that the people that visit it on a daily basis or a more regular basis are doing so for a reason, because it's providing a service they can't go without. It's like a daycare or a dentist or something along those lines. And so this parcel basically takes the northernmost, or kind of the hard corner is what I'd call it, of County Road 50 and Apava, and provides that type of location. So we start working inward. One of the things that is a tremendous asset for this particular property is Antlers Park. And the ability to have Antlers Park be activated by additional residents than what you'd have in a townhome type development is something that I thought was attractive, in terms of the ability to walk out your unit, go for a walk within the park, and basically walk back home without actually providing a need or having a need to go park in that parking lot across the street. I thought that activation adjacent to Antlers Park would be generally positive for the park. And then recognizing that there is a single family neighborhood on the south half of this site, how can we transition the intensity of the development back towards single family? And so that's where we're seeing kind of this density kind of step down as we move to the south, going from, a 3-story unit that's kind of shown in the center of the site down to a 2-story unit, and then basically at the existing homes just on the south side of 202nd. So that's how this site plan came together. I would reiterate, this is a concept. I'm not working, or I am not working for any developer that's actively looking at this parcel. This is simply, I'm looking at this saying, hey, is this something that, how would I do it if I had a developer come to me and said, what's the highest and best? And that's what you're looking at today.
Thanks for that. My initial thoughts, and everybody can kind of weigh in, but if last summer is the first summer of the new Antlers Park, the renovated Antlers Park, is any indication of how we'll be for traffic wise the next couple of years, this type of density is going to put maybe too much pressure on the park. And I get it's walking, and so you're not having to worry about parking and that kind of stuff. So I'm not worried about that, and area of the overflow situation. But when that parking lot is full and there's overflow, that park is full, and it's billed as a community park. That was why it was part of the referendum, and so we want to be able to maintain access for as many people as possible. So say it all to say is, residential may work here, this density may not.
Sure.
For my opinion. So I guess I'll leave it at that for now. I appreciate kind of the background. I totally understand all that. Maybe we get the rail car thing here figured out, but still with the limited access on the 50, I understand how it is challenging for commercial. I don't know, but if you think holistically about our park system, I'm concerned about how much pressure.
Sure.
I don't know if other people have comments. Yeah.
When I first saw the concept, I have to agree, the large building, there, it just, to me, it doesn't sit right. And I think, the question is the density. We're back to, okay, we're proposing changing this OP into residential. I think residential can work, and I agree with the mayor, with less density. I just really, the building doesn't sit well with me at all. I can see townhomes there. I would love to see, I like the concept of, hey, up in that corner, that's a different piece of property.
It is. It is. It would have to be something considered as a part of any development, frankly, from it. Either it's somebody gonna,
Or is that somebody?
Somebody else.
Yep.
Just that corner piece?
Yeah.
Yes. It's a tiny little.
But how I looked at it, frankly, is like, you're not gonna, from any sort of commercial standpoint, if it's gonna be successful, it would be on that corner. And so I took some liberty. I apologize if the resident is in the room tonight. It was not meant to be a slight in any way. I just was trying to figure out what the best layout would look like.
The point that I was gonna make is, I like that idea, regardless of where it goes. I think this is one of those where we could reduce the density of the housing and maybe fit some type of commercial in there. Like like you say, it's not gonna be something that somebody just is driving by and goes, oh, hey, there's a place I'm gonna stop. It's gonna be something somebody goes to on purpose. So the daycare works, something that, maybe some kind of grocery outlet or something like that. But I'd like to see less density, and more perhaps neighborhood use, type commercial. That is a good concept. And if there's like one other thing, I just think it's too much density.
Sure.
I think it's an interesting concept. I can't ignore the immediate visceral response from a lot of people of a apartment complex, both in my own home and the emails that I received. So I think that is something that is probably a non-negotiable with most people in this room. This is one of those pieces though, where, I wish retail could work, but it's not quite even building out across the street from here. So there are certainly challenges with going forward with that commercial district. The office park, I don't know. I was trying to think of, are there other ways to do like a OR and like a office residential transition district use here, where there can be some mixed use. There were some interesting ideas from folks who emailed me about, capitalizing on the park a little bit. Like, is there a boutique sort of like surfboard shop that's on the corner? That might be a adjacent use to the park. So I don't know. I'm not completely opposed to change here, but I'm not in a rush to change it. And I think that we can hold off and put this as part of our comprehensive planning process, put it through a few more. That's just to see what the options are here. Maybe there's another creative way to keep some retail somehow. So using that, because your point about transitioning the housing, I think is a good feel for that part of town. I don't know. I'm not quite ready to give it all up yet.
Sure.
Without some additional investigation.
Good feedback, yep.
What type of businesses are out there that are complementary to Lakeville? Let's just say, let's call a regional park, even though it's not a regional park. That's where the focus should be, is something that complements the entertainment that's enjoyed at the park, and some additional opportunities that they can get across the roundabout there, something that complements it all. And so in that case, I'm not ready to give up commercial at this point because there might be some other opportunities for a business to go in there that would be playing off the park.
Sure. Are you, I'm just thinking when you mentioned like almost complementary businesses to a park. I mean, in my head, the first thing that comes, I have a 7-year-old. So the first thing I think is like, okay, where can we get ice cream as fast as possible tonight?
We already have that.
You know what I'm saying?
For competition.
Yeah. Right. So it's like more something along those lines. Since I just wanted to make sure, is that the kind of thing that you're thinking of? Is more like, hey, you know, something that's more attractive to families. I'm just thinking if there's somebody that's trying to pull something from this discussion besides the fact that, hey, we're good without multifamily here. What is it? It seems like you guys are really looking for something to have some commercial around this park that's complementary, but also understand it's not gonna be 25 acres of commercial likely. Is that right?
Yeah, and yes, I think that's fair.
Well, again, I'm kind of a comp plan purist on this. It seems to me any commercial piece of land we have in town, we can find a reason why it's not developed now. So I don't like looking at this in isolation. You know, the part that's OP fits into what we were just talking about. I think it should go to success. I'm definitely averse to giving up the commercial area.
I think the easiest thing to answer your question, Tina, when they talk about 3 parcels, we encourage that RM1 that's already zoned to be the first, parcel. Because that's Ward 2, right?
Yep.
It's already
so
zoned.
If
so-
you can see on the north side of, I'll just point to them. Knows what I'm talking about. So, the RM2, that's for sale, and this is for sale, and then all of this. And then he has a few other scattered pieces that are, one's largely wetland we're grappling with. But I do see all of those being sold very soon.
Tina, could you say what RM1 and RM2 means?
They're just different levels of medium density. So, yep, townhomes. Now, that doesn't mean someone may not come in and ask to downzone and do, small lot, single family versus townhomes. I don't know. Again, I don't know who all the different proposers are. I just know they have a lot of them.
Yeah, I would say the one other thing in the OPC3 to think about, this is, I've heard for years and probably a dozen emails. I don't know who has this idea that can pour this kind of money into it, but everybody always talks about some sort of community center, rec center here. Again, I don't know how that works financially, but it's something to think about. Okay. I'm happy to have public comment. Here's what I'll say. We got a lot of emails today. We got nothing in front of us, so I'm happy to have people weigh in, but I'm not trying to be condescending. Let's not be repetitive or, this is an ongoing conversation. I think you kind of know where the council is on this, but I want to respect the fact that everybody came tonight. So if you have something to share, we can do that, but we'll just have people come. You got to say your name and your address. And let's try to keep it to 2 minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Try to keep it under 2 minutes.
And just a reminder, we need everybody's name and.
All right, so I'm Adam Wade. I live 10603 202nd Street West here in Lakeville. Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you for hearing us tonight. Appreciate it. I know it's been a long night, so I'll try to get through. Okay. So this piece of property I drive by 2 or 3 times a day. I work at White Funeral Homes. I see it across the way all the time. It's a mile and a half from downtown Lakeville, 2.5 miles from uptown South Fork area. It's in between Hasse and Ames. It's in between Lakeville North and South. It's really a central spot of Lakeville. I really think it's one of the heart spots of Lakeville. And I think that during my time here, living here, when I was 11 years old, I was driving up the road with my dad and we were looking up at the All Saints Catholic Church and it was all farmland. And he said, you got to take a look and just remember this because one day it'll all be houses. And now it's all houses. And 20 years later, I still think about that ride. And I just really think that we need to preserve some of these sections of land that we drive by every day as part of our identity in Lakeville. So Mr. Warwick walked into the funeral home about 5 years ago, and he greeted my grandpa. We were just sitting there talking, and he walked in, and my grandpa got up and shook his hand, and they acted like they're old buddies because they were. And he walked in and gave my grandpa a piece of paper and then walked out. He was with his nephew, and I said, oh, wait, who is that? He said, that was Mr. Warwick. He comes in and fiddles with his pre-arrangement. So, yeah. So I said, oh, yeah, you know, he owns a property right across here. And I said, what is he going to do with that when he's gone? And Grandpa said he didn't know. So for the past 6 years, I've been thinking about what's going to happen to this piece of property. You know, when we sit at the funeral home working all the time, I see it all the time. I understand why people are going to want to develop this property. It's one of the best properties in Lakeville. It's right in the center. It's so close to everything. I understand that his family is going to want to make money off of it. And I understand that it's going to be a profitable venture no matter what it is. But I do think that we need to preserve this land in some sort of way. I think that putting houses there and keeping it residential, I mean, at the very minimum, single family homes. I mean, I think the worst thing that you could do in that spot is to create a condensed housing. So I'll let everyone else talk about traffic and not everything like that, but mine's kind of for the vision of Lakeville and how I see this property going. So my proposal to you, City Council, is I would love to see this be some type of community area, whether that's a rec center, whether that's a park, whether it's more park.
Or a parking lot.
Yeah, or more parking for the park. You could put baseball fields, football fields, and I don't know about the financial situation of Lakeville or anything like that, but if we have to raise money as a community, I think that just the outpouring from the proposal that they saw online today, that we could actually gain traction on something like that. So I hope that kind of encompasses how I feel about this property, and you know, yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Others?
I have a question. Bradley Anderson, Italy Avenue. What is the urgency for developing this property? I think, you know, these townhomes would be an eyesore. Is there an urgency that we need to know about? Can it just be put off for a while?
There's not an urgency on the city standpoint, but the property is for sale. And when property is sold and a developer gets a property under contract, which is what the Warwick family is trying to do, they're trying to get all three of these parcels in this area under contract. We are then faced with receiving applications. The city can't prevent someone from making an application. And so then that process starts. If that process is for a rezoning, it will eventually become a live application, go through the process with planning commission, council, and so forth. So in order to start prepping and understanding what this property could be is the reason we're here tonight.
I think part of it too is, you know, this was not something that Mr. Ward wanted to sell when he was alive. With her passing, now all of a sudden it's marketable. So
Yeah, you haven't been dead very long.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
It's like a week after he passed.
Bob, you have something to say?
Bob Erickson, 19081 Indale Drive. I apologize for not saying that earlier. Today's a special day from my vantage point, having worked with George Warwick since 1989. Today's his birthday. Today's George. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that George was a very special person, a stewardship of land. He believed in tillable acreage. He always farmed it. And it's because his roots were deep as a farmer. He did yield to the city's needs by giving up his residence. So to credit him with that decision was what makes Antlers Antlers Park what it is today. With regard to the daycare, I'm gonna go quickly with regard to the daycare, which would be immediately adjacent to Progressive Rail, would be totally inconsistent with the city's past legislative position, which is the rail currently runs in close proximity to Orchard Lake, Kenwood Trail Middle School, McGuire Middle School, and JFK Elementary. And that's been a position of the city, I think, for over 2 decades with concerns. So to me, the daycare certainly fits on the site. I just don't think play area adjacent to the rail makes good sense. The townhomes that are proposed, that the tracks are not denoted on this drawing.
Yeah. Seriously,
I'm sorry.
I'm trying not to interrupt, but the details don't matter. I'm not trying to.
I'll go to the mega issues.
Yep,
And
perfect.
I'll do that very quickly. Tina referenced it. There's a desperate need for traffic study. Ingress and egress from this site on Dodd is an impossible challenge. And anybody who's witnessed what occurs at that intersection, T intersection, it doesn't work. And every day in the morning and every night in the evening, traffic is backed up from 50 all the way down to County Road 70. And that's not unusual. So that challenge, I've estimated that this project, 16 units an acre, would generate 2,900 new traffic trips a day. 2,900 traffic trips a day just for this development, not talking about George's property across the street north of George's estate, across the street from north of. Who will fund the upgrade of 202nd Street? It's a rural section with gravel shoulders. Somebody's gonna have to write an awfully large check at $200 a foot to fund that upgrade, which is gonna be necessary with the additional traffic. But traffic conditions at Dodd would have to be addressed because right now it doesn't function. So a lot of the details, but that's the mega view of this. The other thing that, to your point, Mr. White, there's park dedication that would go with this development. There's park dedication could be in the form of land or cash. So to me, the land scenario has merit considering the parking challenges that currently exist at Antlers.
Agree there.
The land would come without a cost. It would be in lieu of a park dedication payment. That's a park and city council decision.
I saw one more hand here.
Yeah, Diane Repke, I live at 228 Huntington Avenue, up the street. And, I mean, like everyone thinks, I mean, an apartment complex is too crazy, too many people, too many kids. We don't have, I mean, we can hardly fit kids in the schools that we've got. Our taxes are always through the roof. Because it's across from the lake and the park that's constantly busy, why don't we get some more fun there? Like, has anybody been to a Chicken and Pickle? We could use another business in Lakeville to generate revenue that would still be fun. That's a super amazing restaurant that's fun for families, that we need more kids. We need to go down to Lakeville Brewing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night in the summer, and it's just kids everywhere. It's like a daycare. So, I mean, we need more of that in Lakeville. We do not need more houses. We're not getting the tax base. My taxes have gone up. Well, my mortgage has gone up $1,000 since I moved here 10 years ago. I mean, it's pushing some people out. We don't have we got enough low income housing, I think, and apartments and townhomes already. And we can't, our schools are crammed full. I mean, I'm looking for something more fun. You go to other big lakes around the state and there's more restaurants, there's more things to do when you go to the lake. So that would be my comment.
My name is Rick Bringeyes and I live at 20085 Italy Avenue. I live adjacent to the park. My family bought the property after World War II. I'm a lifelong resident and George has been my neighbor for my entire life. I used to follow him in the fields when he'd be out and he would literally walk in the fields and pull the weeds. He was really a custodian of the land and he was never going to sell while he was alive. He wasn't going to see any of that land go away. I can tell you that on the east side of the park, I know of a particular person who visited George on a regular basis trying to buy land to put a restaurant there. Wanted a 2-story restaurant that would overlook the lake and have music on the upper deck. I don't know if they're still thinking that way, but they would convince me that George was going to do it. And I say, no, George likes you stopping to visit. You're a pretty lady and he likes you showing up. Traffic study, obvious. I mean, you could end up with a traffic circle at Ipava and at 202nd Street by virtue of traffic is purely on the dot, a right turn only. All right, that's where we're at right now. And that's always been a cluster and a concern. Mr. White is correct. This is a jewel of Lakeville. It's right in the middle of everything that happens. And unfortunately, that means all the school traffic too, because we have kids on the north side that go south, and south goes to the north, and everybody on the south side of 50 and west of the freeway goes to south, which means people are telling their kids not to go on the freeway. So they're coming down 50. That is super busy. How busy is it? I can tell you my wife was T-boned by a teenager going 50 miles an hour at the intersection of Highway 50 and Ipava. All right. So if you put a traffic circle there, I would be happy. All right. I'm going to remind you, I'm a regular customer. I was here a year ago when there was a question about the Kenwood property. When the roundabout went in, I was the guy in the room saying, don't do it. 50's not ready for it. Have you done a corridor study? No. And then I was also said, why are we doing this now? Because it's for safety. And I said, well, if it's really about safety, why aren't we fixing Dodd first? Because that's where people are dying, not at that intersection. We did both studies and both of them got moved up and both of them have fixed and they've been jewels for our community. There's lots of little things that go on there. It's one of those things where, but when we saw this, it scared the living daylights out of us because that's basically the deepest density in the city, and we were going to throw it right smack in the middle with limited access. Now, as far as commercial goes, yes, there's roads where you turn off and have to go behind, and yes, it's very convenient across the highway, but it's pretty common in other places along service roads and things like that to come off the main road to get access. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Senator Duckworth is in the process of fixing our rail car problem, right? We're pretty close, so visibility will not be an issue. And if we went to things like professional buildings, like dentists or eye doctors or things like that, or maybe someday a new white funeral home, you know.
No more competition.
Okay, right. Well, in a city of 70,000, you can count on more competition to do those kind of things. You know, so, you know, it's important. I'm really happy that you did this because we got to talk to you before the family got property sold and got all wound up. Because, you know, Lakeville Envision, I served on that task force a year and a half ago. We looked at the comprehensive plan. We knew that it wasn't up. And we felt pretty comfortable where it's at. An OP, I understand times have changed. But some kind of a mix would be really nice. And when I look at that picture and I see all those homes right on the 50 corridor, we have systematically moved residences when possible from the Highway 50 corridor because of the noise, the traffic, and also for additional right-of-ways and things like that. You put all those townhouses in, that's a big ask on in eminent domain. You know, I would love to see us do some expansion of park.
Yeah, there you go.
That an expansion of our parks that could be, you know, the restaurant, parking, and Luke's absolutely right. When our parking lot is full, that park is full. It really is. And people still show up because they park in the neighborhood and they park over at the school. And people come over, they park across the lake at the ramp and they come over on their boats and spend their time over there. All right. And it's a beautiful park and it's wonderfully designed. Really is fabulous design because everybody spreads out in the whole park. But we actually have less green space than we had before we added this extra 6 acres of parking lot. If you look at it on Google Earth, you can see the difference. But thank you for listening to us. Thanks for listening to it. And there is a lot of minutia, you know, when we were looking at going, whoa, because I looked at it and I went, well, there's 20 visitor parking spots. All right. There's over 1,000 people there. That's not enough. Where are they going to park? Well, they're going to park over at the park, right? Or they're going to park down the one-way street. or on where the no parking signs are. Townhomes, and those are 2-story, again, you know, somebody leaned over to me and said, gee, wouldn't this be a better place for the senior living? I'm going, yeah, it probably would, especially if you put a little bit of retail in there where they could walk. And then I looked at that and I went, yeah, I'm sure somebody's saying that this is a walkable community, but I don't see any sidewalks.
Right.
You know, those kind of things. And I'm gonna end it there, but I really want to thank you for bringing this forward now. So we had this opportunity, and I think it's important for you to know that when you come back and rezone, we're really not interested in you changing it. If you went with some townhomes on the south side and that transition, I think we could live with that. But, you know, I don't think we want to we don't want to put the highest density of Lakeville, an apartment complex, and 8 cluster units together into the neighborhood, because it would change the entire character of the center of our city. Thank you.
Anybody else? Notice that? Hi, Jill.
Jill Lawrence, 9715. Michelle, the statements on the earlier plot, I thought were very thoughtful. One of the things that isn't discussed but needs to be is we already have medium density zoning on his other plots. Points that the city council really needs to keep foremost in their mind: diversified economic development. This is a plot that was laid out for that vision. You go all the way back to Envision Lakeville, 2012. That plot is laid out. There's a sketch of what Envision Lakeville envisioned for that property. It was a combined use plot. It had a few restaurants. It had a few housing developments. It had allotment green space. It was walkable. It was lower density. And the idea of businesses that could be an asset to the park, bike shops, additional restaurants, paddleboard rental. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there. The other thing, good values for public service. Those type of developments would be a good value for the area, for the park. You mentioned needing a break, slowing down the density before the other neighborhood. You can't forget the other neighborhood that's there too, that is adjacent to that. We are looking at medium density. We are looking at townhouses. So you add the 2 other additional medium density townhouse things. This oversaturates this to maybe a couple thousand extra people. As Bob pointed out, a community center, those type of things are a possibility in Lakeville. We have been asking for them over and over and over again. The way we got Antlers Park developed was asking for the money, was getting out there, getting opinion. There is a process to it. It's a process I believe the city has ignored. The schools, I checked on them. Lake Marion Elementary, this whole area is a busing area. They can't walk across County Road 50 in the train tracks. Don't know what the current busing rules on Paintford is. Kids are going to be walking. That's a safety thing. It addresses the safety throughout the community. Higher density creates a very unsafe walking situation. The schools right now, all of them have grades. The 3 schools that would be in this area, all of them have grades that are at capacity. They have some, they are not at capacity, but it's pretty close. And the last thing I want to remind the city council of is Lakeville is considered to be the fastest growing community in the state. You guys have the power to shape that destiny. You don't have to rezone. You can tell George's family, we're not considering rezoning this, or we're not considering rezoning parts of this, so they should make that clear to their buyers. You guys have the ability, because we are growing, the developers are here, they're wanting in. So you sticking to your comprehensive plans is a power that you have that most other city administration would beg for. And I thank you for your time.
We ready to move on?
If I may say one more thing, please. I'd like to have a speak.
Jeff Vanderbush, 19371 Jersey Avenue. Luke, thank you. City Council, thank you. Justin, I agree with all the sentiments in this group right here. I mean, this is a crown jewel. Like I said here in this area here, we need to try and keep it that way. Justin, I mean, you and I met about 4 or 5 years ago, I think, and I said, I got a plan for this, right? You might have thought I was nuts back then, but I still agree. That, you know, I proposed to put like a big, you mentioned some other stuff there. I put a big slide in there, put a little train track around there or something, do something to tie on to Amherst Park. Don't just put townhomes in there. I mean, we just approved, the council approved the one on 35W and 185th, 135W by Target. That's been approved, so that's gonna be, I don't know how many more units of people coming in, that'll be tapping into the downtown area, which is good for businesses. But like she just said about the schools, I mean, we are maxed at these schools. I mean, the referendum just didn't go through. I mean, there's a lot of people that are in this area that want to preserve Lakeville for what it is, and eloquently. We have that chance, you have that chance to make that happen. And I think we need to really think about it. Also, coming soon is going to be the economic benefit. Justin talked about that. Now, what does that turn into? Is that more townhomes? Which if you saw the plot for that, that's a tremendous amount of capacity. I mean, people coming in over there. So we got to take a step back and think about what this is going to do and what the city can be. And before we start changing stuff around. In the lake traffic, you talk about safety up here. Safety is a huge deal. And I don't know who mentioned that issue about the traffic out there that'll create going to that park. If it's all townhomes and stuff, they come across, they put their boats in over there. I mean, I live on the lake and I won't even go out there on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I don't even consider it. You know, if you're gonna do it, you better go early in the morning or late at night. You better go on the weeknights. So and all that would do would be add more congestion, that whole situation. So kept it brief. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And
Rick Ringeisen, I apologize because I left this out. I feel it's really important. When you meet people from other communities and they talk about Lakeville, they talk about the fact that we have maintained our business district and that they think that is special, especially now since it's become an entertainment site. But the fact of the matter is that that's the last chance we have with our business district. He said, we are businesses across the highway. We are businesses all the way through downtown. That's our last piece that we have for that part of Lakeville. And if we throw in a stack of townhouses and let that opportunity go, we've really missed out. There can be a real viable alternative there. And when people talk, we are one of the fastest growing cities and it's not slowing down. They go, we are going to need more professional people. We are going to need more businesses. We're going to need more opportunities. And yeah, that's simple, easy, and it's fast, and they can slam it in, you know, in under 2 years. But why would we give up why would we give up our last opportunity for commercial property in our downtown business area? I think that would really be a huge mistake. I go, Mr. White, your business is across the street. You want to see townhouses, or would you like to see fellow businessmen across the way from yourself? I think that's an easy answer. I mean, well, you have more customers dying to do business.
Okay, last word.
Jim Steffen, 103, 102, 204th Street West. I've listened to everybody and it's all great. I pardon to you because this started out as just an idea and a concept. And it's like 180 degrees the other way. If you build it, they will come. How about George Warwick Memorial Park?
That would have been a great design for this truck. Yeah,
You should have got the George.
that'd be a great gift, and you should call his nephew. I would support that.
I just had one thing, sorry, Angela Vandenbush, I live in the same address as Jeff, but I just wanted to mention, about the rail cars, hopefully we'll be out of there, but that, correct me if I'm wrong, that railroad track isn't going
No,
anywhere.
no, it's actually good.
That could potentially be used someday for regional rail.
Definitely could.
So, something to think about.
Yeah, I have a question or a comment. I'm gonna sit here because the interpreter, if that's okay. So my name is Janelle, and I live at 2055 Mine. H8.
Hamburg.
Hamburg, thank you. By the way. And, I moved here several years ago for several reasons, and I'm sorry, but, I just wanna say that I lived here because of your city, because of the expansion. And, I needed to slow down. We all needed to slow down. Schools are at capacity. And if we have too much housing, then that's gonna have an imbalance for the whole thing. Like, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in other cities where I've lived, and I've seen it happen now, and I don't think people are very satisfied with the direction that it's going. And I think all of us that, everyone that we've heard today, everyone, has a level of agreement. And so, we represent the city where we live, and I understand that, there's important reasons why you would develop it differently, but I don't think we need any more housing. I think we're at capacity for that, as shown by what you just said, maybe we have a memorial park. I think that we really need to use that land so that everyone can enjoy it. Everyone can use that land. People that might live in the townhomes that they might want to build there, because Antler Park is for everyone, not just for a few more people. And if you have more people, they can build somewhere else and they can still come in and enjoy the park. And so I think that, you're right, more boats will come, there'll be more traffic, and then I won't be able, to get through, the swimming area will just be congested without the boating. So I really think that, unjust thing if this happens, because I'm disappointed that, there's just, I can't even believe that this is being entertained. We just need to slow down, because this is not a smart idea. Doesn't look good for our city, and, people are talking about how Lakeville just needs to slow down with the residential. We want this to be a quiet community. We don't want this to be, something that's just like an addition of the bigger city. That's just my opinion. I like the culture of Lakeville the way that it is now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to items for future discussion. Okay.
I actually.
Oh, Michelle. Yep.
Do you know if, in the future, we're gonna have a work session at all on the Cherokee fire station, or a recap from you?
Yeah, so at some point we will. We're not there. Committee city administrator updates.
Well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna move into closed session for security reasons.
This is adjourned. This is supposed to be adjourned.
Okay, so with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. So moved. Yeah. Yeah, we'll just do it.
It's so fun. They are. They're like the perfect thing. Some places like have fun, other places for family.
What's the nearest is an Iowa or Arizona?
The other thing we got to eat.
Thank you so much. So, appreciate your comments.
Next to it. Food and other.
That means.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.